Welcome back to another restarted episode with Contention, Florida hardcore slash metalcore band. I'm sitting here with vocalist Cosmo. We'll get into that in a little bit because I definitely am curious as to how big of a Seinfeld fan your family was, if that's what that is, or if that's just a nickname. And we're also joined by Josh of Contention.
Hey,
let's try to recreate.
Hey,
let's try to recreate the last 3 minutes that we didn't get to record because the audio is fucked up. But like, la. Hey, it's really weird that I found out about you guys because you're a Florida band, and I was looking up some stuff on the internet, right? And Encyclopedia Metalum has you guys listed on there, which is quite insane because I kind of think that you're a hardcore band from Florida. However, they have you labeled as metalcore, which is even crazier because they've in the past said, we're not going to deal in this metalcore core bullshit. Thus, here you are, the hardcore band, I think you're a hardcore band, on EM. So, what the heck, guys? What are you?
We're a hardcore band. Fuck them. We have our lawyers going to get in touch with Encyclopedia Metallum. Who the fuck do you think put us on there? Who do you think goes on there and like makes an entry? Isn't that fucking crazy? I always wondered that.
Well memed.
It's probably random. Yeah.
The person's name is Well Memed, and you were added on August 31st, 2020.
Yeah, that's early. We weren't doing anything.
Wow. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I guess maybe the demo was metalcore. Maybe they're right.
Yeah, but it's not like that far off from what we're doing now.
Nah.
You know, I feel like we haven't really lost the plot as far as like what we're doing sonically.
Yeah,
compared from like demo to now. So I don't know.
Well, let's get into it because there's not a lot of time between demo and now. Technically, you guys are relatively a newish band. You guys have been a band for a couple of years, but just like you said, at the time you were added to EM in 2020, mid 2020, late 2020, you guys weren't really doing much, but you just released you just not a debut album, but maybe your debut album because
first LP, yeah.
I was gonna say Days does a lot of firsts lately, so you guys just dropped Artillery from Heaven, which is your debut LP, through Days.
Yeah.
This past month, so there's not a lot that people would know about between originating and now. So let's dive into it because obviously you're local kind of a Florida hardcore band, and I dig hardcore and I live in Florida, so let's dive into it. How did you guys come together?
Josh started. I'll let him take that.
Okay. So basically, our other guitar player Bailey, him, and our old guitar player Mitch, we started the band together, and then I had known Lucas, our drummer, and Cosmo from playing in other bands, just also in the same area. And I was in another band at the time, and I could kind of see that it was starting to slow down a little bit, and we weren't really. I wanted to I had a lot more time on my hands, so I wanted to tour harder, and I wanted to just play more shows in general. And so that was kind of why I started it. And there wasn't a lot of metalcore stuff happening. This was probably end of 2019, early 2020. I feel like, this was before Afira was a thing and Adrian started all that shit. So I was just there's not a lot of metalcore going on, good metalcore. And I want to start a band like that, and I want to play a shitload. And basically me, Bailey, and Mitch started writing some riffs, and then we had to practice with Lucas, and I'm like, okay, he's awesome. And I think we wrote the music, basically wrote all the songs, and we were like, okay, who's gonna sing?
Yeah.
And we had this one person in mind for singing, and I'm glad we didn't use them because they sold out since. And but anyway, it didn't work out with them, and Lucas, is lifelong friends with Cosmo, and I also knew Cosmo, and then we all started practicing together, and we were like, yo, I remember the first time we had a practice, and I heard Cosmo screaming over the tracks, and I was just like, dude, like this is it. Like, we were locked in, and then we recorded the demo pretty quickly after that. The rest is history.
Very nice. It's part of a whole like wave of like hardcore coming from South Florida in the last like, I don't know, 16, 18, 24 months. There's been a lot of movement, it seems like, in the home state here for, metalcore and hardcore. Especially like I would say metalcore too, because like you were saying earlier, Ephra and all these other labels like are really taking like a liking to, I don't want to say like metalcore that like I because the metalcore like that I came up on was different than the metalcore that was originally there. I like came up in the early 2000s, and it was more like Killswitch Engage metalcore, like way more metally. It wasn't more of like the early like Dead Guy style Converge, metalcore, which is kind of what we're seeing a lot more currently. It's not like the Killswitch Parkway Drive Unearthed style of metalcore. It's more of like a really mixed hodgepodge of like hardcore, new metal, and metalcore just right together, which is fine. I'm down for it.
I mean, that was kind of intentional. Like, I've always liked the metalcore that still stayed in hardcore land.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when certain bands start to, it's funny, like I feel when a band is ready to like take that next step and they write the LP, that's usually when they start to dip into we're going to start singing in some songs, and we're going to get less hardcore, and we're going to start adapting the metal. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay, keep doing the same thing that we've been doing, keep it hardcore, and keep the energy of a hardcore band as well. Like, so I don't know. It's very intentional the way that we've been crafting our sound, for lack of better words,
The amount of people that asked me, they were like, yo, so be honest with me, is there going to be singing parts on the LP? And I'm like, fuck no, there's not. I'm not doing that shit.
No, you're not taking vocal lessons from Melissa?
Yeah, nah, yeah, I couldn't fucking do that. Josh sings in a band, but not this style. You got to hit those fucking
very different
melodies.
Very different.
Are you not why aren't you going to do some vocal singing on Contention's record, Josh? Why don't you do that?
Can you imagine?
That's a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like push it into a certain direction, and I feel like that is the step in the wrong direction as far as the sound for the band. But at the same time, who knows? We might change our mind and do it.
I mean, like, is there a way that it can be done without sounding like weird, like sellout style, or from left field? Like, there's melodic hardcore obviously out there, and that's done very well. But I don't necessarily know if that's the kind of singing that we're talking about, or if we're talking about
Shattered Realm song with singing in it.
Yeah.
It all depends how many zeros Rise Records puts on that fucking check.
Hey.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Hey.
All right, Days. If you cut us a check, maybe we'll start thinking about some artistic differences.
Some radio syndication, maybe.
Yeah.
Get us on XM, Octane.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's funny because I moonlight in a bunch of different worlds. Like Josh was asking beforehand, like why is there more hardcore on Lambgoat? And that's because like I listen to hardcore and I like to cover hardcore. But I also listen to like other things, and so like when I go to like other events like Rockville, like we were just at, I do have to sit there and chat with Jose of Sirius Octane and all this other shit.
Hell yeah!
So like
that only came to mind because I just got a new truck the other day, and it came with a trial of XM's fucking radio.
For the next 3 months, buddy, you're plugged in with the Metal Ambassador.
I'm on Liquid Metal. Yeah.
And that's a whole weird situation in itself too. That whole like. I don't want to say corporate metal world, but it kind of is a corporate metal world because, when I talk to Jose, it's like, oh my God, you've been doing this for 25 years and you've been working in the radio world for that long, But that kind of brings me to a question I bring up a lot with like hardcore bands because, like we said earlier, off the podcast, we got a lot of opinion. I got a lot of opinions and thoughts on like just hardcore in general, and like because it is a weird, finicky kind of like world to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like. Gatekeeping is cool, but it's also not cool. There's like there's certain things that are cool and not cool at the same time in this world. So it's like alternate universes sometimes. My big question is, hardcore, like we all like hardcore because one of the reasons I think is it's very abrasive. Not a lot of people will immediately get into it, so it takes a different kind of person to like heavier, insane music in general. And hardcore is just one of those things. It also is cool because we know that it's not liked by a lot of other people outside of our little friend groups and stuff like that. However, the longer that we go, you have other bands that are going outside the box of hardcore, and they're pushing and broadening the spectrum of what hardcore is. You know, like Turnstile, for example, is massively huge. Knock Loose is almost in the same kind of ballpark. Hardcore and metalcore, they're transcending our little realm after, a decade or so. They're gonna go on tour with Slipknot. But my question is to the bands and to the diehard fans of hardcore, what level is too big? Because we all want everyone to flourish, right? We all want to be able to. I want to see Contention do the band for 30 fucking years. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we get Contention? How do we get Contention to be a band for 30 years? Support yourself one way or the other, and to create the art. So, like, that's the thing. Like, it seems like hardcore, everyone's all about it at a very young age, but then obviously things happen. They get out of their bands, they get out of the scene, yada yada. But those who have stayed in it for the long haul, that have been, constantly going to shows or whatever, we all know that, like, there is a ceiling. There's a ceiling financially and audience wise that it can reach. So, like, what's too big for it to be like sell out? Is it how many Taco Bell commercials do you have to have? Is it 1? 3?
That might be the threshold. I don't know.
And I'm not knocking it. These are all things that, again, push hardcore to other people. It does make those bands bigger and makes, the scene bigger. But again, you may get some more singy vocals on songs more often than you would.
I think the ceiling just keeps getting higher at this current climate in hardcore. And I feel like bands like, I hate to keep talking about them because so many people talk about them, but bands like Scal and Turnstile, I feel like are really breaking ground as far as how popular and mainstream a hardcore band can get. And honestly, I'm here for it. I think it's really cool. I've been into hardcore for 10 or 11 years now, and it's never been like this in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Where, like, they have, this isn't exactly hardcore in my mind, but it's close enough. Like, they have Knock Loose records at Target, and I'm just like, I never would have thought that would be like a thing again. Like, I don't know. There's just new ceilings that bands like that are starting to get to. So I'm just like, you know what? I think it's really cool that more people are starting to get interested in just guitar music in general. And if that ceiling is going to keep getting brought up, then I think it should keep going up. And, I think it's cool that bands are like able to actually live off of hardcore money, or I guess it turns into corporate money after a certain point.
See, that's what I'm saying. There's a weird level. There's a weird level.
I think that's cool. Like, I don't think that bands should have to struggle anymore. Like, I think that in hardcore land, it's kind of a.
But to piggyback off of that, isn't the struggle part of hardcore?
You got to struggle first.
I think the struggle is getting your band off the ground, like figuring your sound out, gaining popularity or whatever. And that's, if it takes off, great, and if it doesn't, you try again. I feel like that's the struggle, and it takes, like, we've had bands before Contention that weren't as big, and I think that's just part of the process. Yeah.
So many that played 15 people shows for the entirety of their career.
Contention played 15 people shows for quite a while. Sure, like, when we put the demo out, respectfully, nobody gave a fuck. And now, we have the record out, but we also, like, worked for it. Like, we went on tour. We really tried to make sure that we're writing good hardcore metalcore. And, I think that's the process. Mm-hmm. I think that grinding for it a little bit is fine. But if somebody gets there a little bit quicker than we do, I'm never going to be like, oh, man, they got so big so fast. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, every band is different. And I don't know. I'm not looking at what other people are doing, That's just me,
Pocket watching.
Yeah, I'm not popular watching.
When the Illuminati executives slither into the DMs, you got to say yes, dude.
Well, because if you don't, you're screwed.
Yeah, dude, what are you going to do? You're going to struggle forever? You got to pay the gas money to the next fucking town.
Yeah, it's true. That's the thing I always, because it's just one of those, like, punk ethos, like, screw the man kind of vibes where hardcore comes from, right? But in reality, in order for hardcore to keep continuing, it can't always be just kind of like this weird little thing under the rug all the time. And, I think social media is giving, whether it's Reels, Instagram, and all this like mosh content and all this other shit that's coming out, people are being shown the world that they've never seen before. And people might think like, oh, you went to a Slipknot mosh pit. That's crazy. And then it is crazy in its own world. But like, there's so many more crazier shit. Like FYA 10 when we went like in February, that was way crazier than fucking any mosh pit that I've ever been witnessed at Slipknot or other fucking metalcore shows, in general. So
it's still a subculture where you're getting punched in the fucking face repeatedly. I mean, how mainstream can it really? You know what I mean? Like, there's just people that's not going to be.
Now we're getting now we're peeling back the Shrek onion layers, of the topic. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. It's like, because it is so violent, and I think it does draw a lot of people to the initially, at least, seeing it. They might get into some bands, and there might be people that just view that stuff online and listen to it online and never actually attend a show, and that's kind of fine, I guess. But do you think there's ever, like, it is like, because it's so violent that will keep certain people away, or that it'll get so popular that people won't want it to be as violent and they'll want it to be more mainstream and accepted, and then crowd killing's now done, canceled?
No, that'll never. I mean, I have been to shows where, like, I won't say what band, but the band gets to a certain point where the crowd is so 15-year-old female that there's no moshing happening because no one wants to, it's just so dense you can't even fucking get in there.
Yeah.
It's just the whole first 20 rows are people singing the lyrics, which is whatever. I mean, I got knocked out at my first show when I was 13 years old. Very formative experience. Huge impact in a positive way on my life. So I can recommend that for anybody.
What show were you at?
A band called 40 Winners. If you've been in Florida a long time, you might remember it. Not. It's like deathcore shit from 2008, 2009, something like that. I was wearing a teal Acacia Strain shirt. Lucas saw me at the show and made fun of me. We didn't know each other yet. So a good friend of mine, Dave McNeil, picked me up, and that's how we met. As I woke up outside, and he was like making sure I was okay.
Hey man, you dust yourself off, you're dead.
That's how it goes. That's how you meet people.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I got fucking crowd killed within the last year. Just so happens you're standing on the side drinking a beer sometimes, and you're gonna catch one. I'm like, it literally was like
smack the beer out of the guy's face.
It was like that, except he I got a fist to the face while drinking the beer. So whatever.
I think you gotta be prepared for that to happen. I feel like people who get hit and then they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that happened." It's kind of like a question mark goes off in our minds. We're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, this is part of the. I don't really feel like there's a swing of people who don't get it yet that are like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to get moshed on. But I feel like as hardcore starts reaching new ceilings, there's been a lot more people trickling in that like don't get that violent aspect of hardcore that will always be there.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It's something when the mosh reels start to make the rounds around the internet. I saw it on ours. I'll see the comments that are like, they'll be in Spanish or just be total like normies that get in there and they're like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't understand. Are the ones that are like, if they tried this shit at a fucking Lamb of God show, I'd put them in the fucking ground. Like, that shit's so funny.
It is funny because, like, and again, I don't want to keep harping on like Rockville, but we just were there, and I do go to these sometimes bigger events, and like, it's one of those things where, like, especially when there's crossover, because like a band, like not a band, but like a festival like Rockville, they do have like hardcore and undercard hardcore and metalcore bands, right? So they'll have like, sometimes they'll have big hardcore bands, but sometimes they'll have smaller bands too, or hardcore / metalcore bands. But sometimes I'll have smaller ones too. And it's weird to see like people that may have not been to a real show come out to those, and they'll be like, I like to mosh pit to Slipknot, so I'm going to mosh pit to Knock Loose or whatever. And then it's like two worlds colliding. You know, you got the push moshers and like the the hardcore ninja dancers, and then it's just like crazy, just world, Power Man 5000 wins World Collide. That's what it looks like. And it's just
an eternal battle, man.
It's funny.
Metal and hardcore have been going at it for 30 fucking years.
Yeah, for a little bit though. True. Metalcore had some ninja fighters too. There's a lot of ninja fighting in metalcore.
For sure, man. I mean,
I was gonna see how long we're gonna leave that blank. Oh yeah. I was just like, I'm staring at you guys. And I was like, how long until?
I was waiting for you to go into your next question.
That's why I was like, I think we're at a standstill, so I'm just gonna see how awkward it can be.
That's good radio right there.
Yeah, that's great radio. Anyway, continue on with your Cosmo. Sorry.
No, I was just saying. I mean, you've had the division of scenes forever. Whether it's just the most like fucking niche ones, like the screamo kids in like the early 2000s and 90s and shit, fucking hating hardcore. Like I've gone through some liner notes, and it's funny. Like you'll read. I'm trying to think of what bands, and they'll like. For example, Reverse Old Man from Tampa, like hating Earth Crisis. And now you get kids where it's like, I fucking love Reverse Old Man and I love Earth Crisis. And I think it's so funny that Reverse Old Man has a Earth Crisis diss song. Like, that's awesome. But at the time, that was like a fucking blood feud, it feels like.
It was a Kendrick and Drake of our time.
It was like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they not like us, if you will.
Yeah. No, I mean, hardcore is just like a really... I think that's part of the allure of it. It's so... I hate saying small, but it is small, and it's not small at the same time. But it's different than like metal or metalcore and everything like that. It's rooted in something completely different, and it is wild to see where it stretches, whether it's within the country or around the world. These small bands that no one really cares about. Again, there's tiny bands. Like not saying that Contention is small. But it's a lesser known band than say like Agnostic Front or Madball. But still, because you've got like you're on days and stuff like that, I'm sure that you have a following overseas too, and because the hardcore is becoming huge overseas too, and it just seems like everything is kind of like trying to marry itself within hardcore. You got like death metal and hardcore. That's like a new lane now. You got like the Stab Wounds guys and all the fucking Cruelty type bands, like all those hardcore infused death metal bands. Like, what about it? What about hardcore is like leaking into everything else? And what's alluring about it that is making it impregnate everything?
Everybody wants I think all those genres want the intensity of a hardcore show. Dude, I get bummed. I don't like fucking standing there and watching a band. Some of my favorite bands are not hardcore bands, and I don't really want to go see some of them, even my favorite bands in the fucking world, because I'm like, dude, I'm going to have to stand there for 2 fucking hours, for 3 fucking hours and not mosh. It's like depressing to me. I don't know. So I think bands like that are like, if I was playing death metal, I'd throw some fucking mosh parts in there. Because otherwise it's like, dude, the best you can get out of the crowd is them going, yeah.
Circle pit. So you can get a cool circle pit. Yeah,
you get that shit. Yeah. But I grew up, I couldn't see it any other way. I grew up going to fucking shows with moshing, with the fucking spin kick shit. Like, I can't do it any other way. Something in my brain is fucking broken.
Like I said, I think that not just the hardcore music wheel, but the music wheel in general is a lot more. It's just turning a lot more. Like, it's a lot more of an inviting energy out in the world right now, and I feel like a lot of bands are just innovating and trying new stuff. It kind of reminds me a lot of. It's not exactly as expressive as the '90s, but I feel like back in the '90s there was a lot of weirder music, just because. It was a weird time. People were figuring stuff out. And I feel like we've kind of, entered that space in hardcore and metal and extreme music where people just want to try different shit out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the same wheel has been spun so many times that bands are like, okay, we have to do something else. We have to try something else if we're going to get anywhere. And I feel like that's kind of spanned over a bunch of genres right now. Just hardcore is it's very noticeable in hardcore right now, but in other genres, I feel like it's the same way.
I'll agree with you on that. I think that's probably because it seemed like music for the last 20 years at least in the mainstream world, because that's most of the fucking music you listen to on a day-to-day basis outside of Spotify finding out stuff yourself. If you're casually listening to music or whatever, it's usually mainstream world. And all that stuff is kind of formulaic. I think they kind of figured out this is how you make a pop song for X person or Y person or whatever, and this is how you make a band song. This is how you make all this other stuff. And again, like you said that earlier, I think Josh was saying like anything to get people into like guitar music, which that was a thing too for the last 20 years. A lot of people started going towards like more pop or electronic sounding equipment or sounding sounds, or they might just be a one person DJ, and that's the music you're listening to. But I think what's going on is people are tired of all that, and everything is 20-year cycles or whatever, and here we are. It's 90s was weird, now we're going to get weird, so I'm for that. Obviously it brightens up, enlivens the world, but I think a lot of it though too with like, is there ever too much mix and mashing going on? I mean, there probably is.
Absolutely, yeah. I won't
definitely.
Goddamn,
definitely.
Some of these local bands, yeah.
There's a lot
definitely, dude.
A lot of muddy water out there.
That's just it's part of it. You got to figure shit out, dude. Somebody told me once a long time ago, there's got to be 200 bad bands for every one good band. So
and I think about that all the time, like the Beatles. So, I think about that with the Beatles. I'm like, that's like one band, and one band on 3 of the TV stations around the world. How many other fucking shittier Beatles were they? That's what I want to. That's what I want.
So many, I'm sure. Yeah, you gotta. That's just a stepping stone to get there. I don't get upset when bands fucking suck, because I'm like, they'll probably play in like 3 more bands and then they'll get a good one. That's just how it goes. You gotta play bad shows to build character. You figure out what you're doing. That's something
I probably didn't realize until much later on. Like when I was in a band when I was like 20 years old, and I was like, this band has to be fucking perfect. Everything in this band has to be perfect.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, this is the one when I'm 14 years old. This is the band that's going to make you. No, you're going to fucking suck. No. Yeah. You still got to do it, though.
No, yeah. I think I should have continued doing other bands after that, because I then was like, that band did not work out. It's not going to work out in general.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. You got to put your time in.
I put my time in elsewhere, I guess. Just not on stage, per se. Being from like Tampa, I mean, I'm assuming most of you guys were born and raised in Tampa. How'd you like not get super influenced by like death metal?
We did. I'm not from Tampa. I wasn't born there. I spent 5 years there, and now I'm back like South Florida area.
Okay.
But I mean, I remember I got to school in 8th grade. I didn't know fucking anybody in this new school, and a kid with a Opeth shirt or some shit, like, recruited me immediately. He saw I was wearing some deathcore shit, and he was like, yo, we're gonna be friends, I'm gonna show you some real shit. And he put me on to, like, obviously Opeth's not fucking Florida death metal, but he put me on to Death and fucking Obituary and Morbid Angel and shit way before it blew my mind, because I had never heard anything like that, so no, I mean, that's definitely a part of our sound. Bailey, our other guitarist, he said, I had to ask him, I was like, yo, some interview was asking like our influences from whatever the fuck, and he's like, dude, Death 100%. Like, obviously the riffs don't sound like Death, but that creeps in there. The tone, when we were in the studio, that was one of the tones we tried to emulate, was Death symbolic. So I mean, there's definitely influence there if it's not super fucking overt, but it's not just hardcore. I fuck with all that stuff.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I only asked because, again, one of my things that I took from living in Tampa was like, oh, I live down the street from Morristown. So
we practice in the Morbid Angel room at our practice space. It's like,
nice.
It's like their practice studio. Yeah.
I think if metal and hardcore bands were playing together more like in our scene, then maybe it would have probably bled even more. But there's like, dude, there's no crossover.
They hate
in the Tampa scene. Yeah, they're like, I know that we have metal fans that like us, but there isn't like legitimate metal bands that we're really intertwining with as far as shows go. So
interesting.
And I mean, Bailey writes a good amount. I know he likes a lot of metal stuff. Dude, I write a good amount myself, and I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, death metal's never been something that I've been like interested in. And like, we have Obituary from here. I like them, and that's probably about it. And Obituary is pretty hardcore leaning. So I feel like I've I wouldn't say I like made an effort to, but I've kind of been like, I don't really want to dive into that world too much just because I don't really listen to it. And that's not really what I want to play. So I think that's partially why it hasn't really bled into our sound. You know, I know it's the death metal capital of, you know, the world is what people would describe Tampa sometimes, but it's like I said, it just hasn't really intertwined much in our, you know, musical journeys, so to speak.
I got you.
I keep hearing people keep saying the word mellow death, like in these reviews and shit.
Melodic
They're like,
death metal.
Mellow death. I know what it means, but they'll be like, there's mellow death influence and Contention, and I'm like,
no, there's
fucking
not.
Contention is listening to Like, I think maybe it's by way of like bands that we're into from Europe listen to At the Gates, but we're not listening to fucking At the Gates. I mean, I like a couple At the Gates albums, but I don't write the fucking guitars.
Yeah.
So it's weird that people say shit like that, and I think it's just somewhere we arrived at because of the bands that we're into.
It's also part of the writer or person just wanting to sound cool.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
They're using the keywords to get all the interest, all the likes.
John, who recorded us, said some shit in the studio. He goes, "Yeah, this is like an At the Gates part." And I was like, what the fuck, dude? How is this I mean, I get it. I get what he's saying. He's not wrong, but we did not arrive there fucking organically. I mean, it's just...
Yeah. That is kind of a strange...
Go
ahead, Josh.
They're giving us too much credit.
Sure.
Man. We're not really thinking it through that much.
No, but like you said, like Cosmo said earlier, or just now, it's through something else. So, like, yes, you At the Gates has influenced you, but definitely someone influenced At the Gates, and you probably fuck with them heavy, and that's how it permeated your world. I get it.
Yes.
Oh man, I fucking was gonna have a question for you, but fuck. Oh, the crossover. Yeah, it's very strange that there's there's not a big crossover scene in Tampa. I feel like up here there is kind of like a lot more mixed kind of lineups. But again, we also fucking have like 0 venues. So I guess bands are just like lucky to want to get on a show and play a show here. So that's different. But I would think that you would see more of that throughout, but it's weird that Tampa is kind of, so cut and dry.
I mean, there is a crossover, but it's not with metal. It's with honestly, there's a screamo scene in Tampa now, and we've played a lot of shows with that side of the scene. There's a big punk scene in Tampa, and that is really just more so what is more in our purview. There just really isn't a lot of metal stuff. And if there is metal, it's usually already attached. It's like punk guys playing metal, or it's hardcore guys playing metal. So it's automatically a part of the scene already. It's not like, oh, who are these guys? We've never seen them before, and they're playing metal, and we all like it. that's never happened.
Right. Okay.
I feel like the scenes are intertwined enough as to where we mostly know if you play music in Tampa, you probably know mostly everybody at this point. If you're playing extreme music specifically, I feel like a good amount of the people. You're aware of the people.
Yeah, it's like an attitude
You're aware
thing.
You're aware of the people in your area that are playing that kind of stuff. Even the I don't know how to call it. It's not hardcore, but it's confused. We call it bizarre hardcore. Even those worlds where we don't really play shows with a lot of bands like that per se.
Who are
but
some
we're
bizarre hardcore bands that we would know?
I don't know if we can name drop them like that, brother.
Sounds okay. What does a bizarre hardcore sound like?
So, oh my god, dude, I'm gonna get killed.
They play in a really low tuning, but they're trying to rip off Rotting Out, but they play and drop A. It just don't get it yet. They'll get there, but they don't get it yet.
Yeah,
they're like, why hasn't no one done this yet?
Exactly.
Because they were listening to to deathcore music, and then they're like, "Oh, hardcore is easier to play. That's cool. We want those kind of shows, but we're not changing our tuning from drop fucking A sharp." So
hilarious. So I know some of you and some of the lyrics are kind of straight edge focused. Is it is Contention a full on every member is a straight edge guy, or is it just person here, person there?
Nah, yeah, we're all straight edge. Just about all of us and our touring party minus Danny Dogpound are all straight edge dudes. It's kind of Josh started it as a straight edge band, so we weren't out there recruiting, fucking non-straight edge people. But generally, that's most. I mean, not to diss my friends who aren't, but that's most of the people we know. I mean, it's a large group.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life where I was the only, like, all my friends moved away or whatever. I got out of high school and everyone broke edge or whatever. So pretty crazy that I'm fucking, you know, almost 30 now. And I just, you know, the last few years, all my friends are straight edge again. I just, you know, got into this scene where it's funny.
Was it a goal, Josh, to make Contention like a strictly straight edge band? Like you wanted to do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And what was like? What was the push for that?
One, it's like the specific like sound that we're doing is like pretty. It has like a history of being straight edge and vegan. We're not vegan. Sorry to anyone who's wondering that. So
half the people just clicked off. They're like, "We're done."
Yeah,
fuck this band.
So there are bands out there that aren't either of them that are doing the same sound, and they exist, and that's fine. But I just wanted to be straight edge band. I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I've been in bands with people that aren't straight edge, and honestly, dude, it's just a different energy that I'm not really trying to have when I'm playing music at this point in my life. It's just, I feel like the straight edgers are a little bit more focused.
I get
you. And so, I mean, we wrote a whole record. This is the farthest really any of my bands have gone, and it's a straight edge band. I think there's something to that. So, but I mean, the message is pretty important. Just about everyone in the band has been straight edge for a pretty long time, so it means a lot to each and every one of us. So I think that, I don't know, having that attached to our name was pretty important to me.
Interesting.
For a bunch of reasons, but those are a few.
Yeah. I always was curious because there are bands that are mixed, you know, straight edge and non-straight edge people or whatever I don't even know what a non-straight edge person would be called. Like I don't even say a
regular fucking
I don't even want to say a regular person. You know what I'm saying? Because like I think regular people also don't drink and do other things too, but nonetheless. But I just think it's weird that there would be a sound attached to it too, because I don't necessarily hear the sound that, I mean, you probably do hear it because it's your band and you're more focused on what band is straight edge and not straight edge, whereas like me, I'm like, I don't even know what they're doing any other time of the day. Why do I care if they're doing this or that? Like I don't, you know, it's not in the liner notes like, oh, we're drug free or alcohol free. But it is kind of weird that it is becoming super popular again. Like straight edge is becoming popular again. And as someone who I'm not straight edge by all means. I mean I was, and then you turn 21 and then
sure.
Yeah, the world happens. But you know, social media wasn't around like it is when I was 20 something. I wasn't being kept, you know, in check all the time, whereas I'm sure it's easier to get checked out or to keep getting checked by friends or friend groups with social media these days. But my question is, like, so when you're starting the band, I mean, outside of everyone being more focused and, you know, probably less issues with people missing practice, getting fucked up, or just being annoying in general, because there's been times where I haven't drank for like a year and everyone that I'm around at night is fucking annoying because I'm the only one that's not drunk. So I understand, you know what I'm saying? But are the lyrics and stuff like that more based on being like in that lifestyle, or do you see, you know, there are other things about Contention that are pivotal points to like speak out about or have in your lyrics?
Not every song is a straight edge song, but everything I write, you know, comes from that perspective. I don't like to, I purposely, and I've done it in one song way fucking over the top, but for the most part, none of our songs say the word straight edge in them. Like I've been straight edge since I was like 16, but I was never in a band where I did that, where I've never been in a straight edge band before Contention, and I kind of always wanted to do a band where I don't say the word straight edge, where it's just implied themes and fucking actually just good lyrics that I worked really hard on, and like poetic shit, like the bands I admire. Like when I was a kid, Have Heart was fucking huge for me. Foundation was huge for me. Earth Crisis says straight edge all the fucking time, but they're huge for me. But those other bands, you know, didn't really hit you over the head with it. They had meaningful fucking lyrics that imply that stuff in a smart way without having a chorus that has fucking straight edge in it, which there's nothing wrong with that either. There's tons of bands that are sick like that. But I purposefully didn't want to put that in the songs because it just seems like enough bands have fucking done that, you know. I wanted to kind of push into new territory and do some new things.
You didn't want to have a song like No Cure that said like, you know, No Cure, straight edge, fuck you. That was a good one.
No, yeah, they're cool guys, but there's nothing wrong with that shit. I think I've even heard them say some shit like, "Okay, we were hesitant about being so ridiculous about that song," and we have a song that says fucking straight edge holy war. So I'm not completely innocent here, but yeah, I made a point that they're straight edge songs, but I'm not, you know, we don't say straight edge in any fucking chorus. It's not what I'm about. Yeah, and growing up, you know, some of that shit was so important to me because I was like a terrible fucking kid and a terrible fucking student. I didn't care about anything. And because of bands like Have Heart and Foundation and shit, I would read their interviews and their liner notes and stuff. And I would read books. Like I would go read the books that inspired them, that they, you know, so that shit was really important to me. And I think it's cool to make a point to like point out my influences and shit in all the fucking interviews and all that stuff I do, because dude, like people come up to me at shows, which is fucking mind blowing, and they'll be like, "Oh, I heard you talk about this book, and I read that book. That's sick."
Yeah.
Like, that's mind blowing because I was a dumb fucking kid who didn't read anything, and I learned about fucking E.E. Cummings and fucking Kurt Vonnegut and shit because I read interviews. Like,
and now you're Carl. Now you're the new Carl.
Now I'm Carl Buckner. Yeah, I'm on Fox News talking to the parent whose kid got killed by straight edge people. That's me.
Hey man, maybe your kid was fucking whatever.
Maybe
wrong place, wrong time.
We open our set with the sample from that Fox News fucking.
You guys also do. Thanks for reminding me. You guys use samples. Like a lot of bands in the last decade plus didn't like. When I was doing bands, like when I was in a band, and we did like some songs. Every song had a fucking sample. It was like the day of samples. You know what I mean? Like, and they were Napoleon Dynamite samples or Dave Chappelle show samples.
Were you in Kill Whitney Dead?
No. But yeah, I mean, like that's something that was like pretty cool back in the day, and it's something that you guys do. Mindforce does it too, or Mindforce and the adjacent projects that are circulated with Jay.
Yeah.
He seems to like fucking skits
I love samples,
and samples. Yeah.
I had some of these samples saved in a Google, like in a USB fucking drive for the last 10 years, and I finally got to use them on Laying Waste. I was like, damn, this would be sick for a fucking straight edge band, but I don't have one. So
I have a straight edge question again, because you said you were 16 when you started. Josh, I don't know how long you've been edge, but have you ever, obviously you haven't tried anything from 16 to now, but did you try anything prior, or have you ever thought about it? Like drinking or smoking pot, or I don't want to say any like crazy hard drugs, but those two are like relatively tame.
Tell him, Josh.
Oh, I once or twice. I wasn't straight edge for a little while. I claimed edge around like 20, 21. I claimed a little bit later than some other people I know, but it's been about almost 10 years now, so I don't even think about it anymore at this point. But I drank a couple times, I smoked, but I always kind of knew it really wasn't something that I was super interested in. Like I didn't really like it. I kind of just did it out of like social obligation, more so because all my friends were doing it. I was just like, oh, like, you know, I gotta, you know, I don't want to be that one guy that doesn't do it. Like I don't want to be that weirdo. And then I think I just hit a certain point where I was just like, you know what, fuck it. Like I am that weirdo. Like I don't want to do this anymore. Like, and I'm gonna stop pretending. Like, you know, I was just honest with myself because I never really did like it, and I just was trying to be a people pleaser or what have you, or I just wanted to fit in. And then I got to a point where I just didn't care anymore, and it's been like that since I can remember now. So.
That's cool.
I think I drank for the first time when I was really young, like, and smoked weed and all that stuff pretty young, like 12, 13 and shit. And, you know, all my, like, there's like a turning point in my fucking life that I can think of in ninth grade where a buddy of mine who was like a good friend, but he was a total fuck up. And I always knew he was going to be a fuck up since we were little kids. We were finishing up school, and he said, yo, tonight, come over to my place. I stole coke from my mom and we're all going to do it. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not gonna do that. And I think that's why I'm still alive, because that dude, he's still alive, but he's overdosed like 5 times on fentanyl. So my hometown, I mean, all the kids I came up with, not all of them, but a lot of the kids I grew up with, you know, I got into fence and got into shit like that. So, you know, it wasn't ever really like, I feel like I didn't have an option to just smoke weed when I was a kid. Like I did a few times, I got fucked up a few times. I had bad experience and shit with weed and all that, whatever the fuck. But you know, all those kids I came up with were doing, they all are fucking dead, or they have fucking Hep C or HIV or some shit. They're in jail. So yeah, that's where that kind of fucked up town I come from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Florida, we get a bad rap, but we do get a bad rap about that stuff, which is probably a good thing. But
yeah,
you know, that I think what makes it curious, what I'm curious about with people who are straight edge, is like I didn't, I only drank really when I was younger. So like when I was in like high school and I would drink liquor, I didn't even drink beer until I was like 24, 25. So like I was just going like full blown, like, you know, 2-3 drinks and like I'm like fucked up because I'm drinking like, you know, alcohol straight instead of like beer, which you can drink all night and still get fucked up, but it'll be like 3:00 in the morning by then. But and I didn't try weed until I was like 26, and I think that was like an eye-opening time, because like I lived through DARE. I went to DARE classes.
I failed DARE, dude. I failed it.
So like that freaked me out for a long period of time of trying anything and everything. But when I tried weed, I was like, what? This is the fucking thing everyone's getting all fucking up in arms about? Now, that being said, fast forward like 10 plus years later, I have a love-hate relationship. I don't even drink. I think I drink socially once a month maybe. And it's probably a hard thing to do at this time because you the taste is so fucking gross sometimes. And then you're like, God, I got to drink like 2 of these things. And that's like a full meal. But the weed thing, I'll still smoke weed. But then I'm like, why the fuck am I doing because, like, you know, you just get bonked on the head sort of sometimes, depending on what kind of weed you're getting. You never know what you're getting these days.
Not the same as it was in 2007 when I smoked weed.
Yeah, when you were 12 years old smoking weed, now. It's different. Yeah, it's a little different. But,
we were smoking mids in the woods behind the fucking...
Reggie. It was Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not like it was now.
Yeah, no. And it's definitely probably too good now. And I go back and forth with, like, wanting to stop everything altogether. But then I'm like, God, once in a blue moon is not that bad.
I think it's sick, the people who like I got friends on both sides of it who have been straight edge, who never did anything, and they found hardcore music and, oh, this aligns with my values, whatever the fuck. Now they're straight edge. I think it's also sick when people are like, yeah, I used to fucking shoot heroin, like I had a problem with fucking junk, I smoked meth, and then, you know, I was always really into hardcore, and then I became straight edge. Like, that's way fucking cooler in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, and it definitely makes me over the years, like, you know, when you certain songs have those call outs and you're like, oh, that's a fucking cool call out.
Fuck you. Nah,
I can't even do, like, you know, like fucking Throwdown was a big one back in the day, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
They always had like straight fucking edge, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not remotely. And even when I saw them last year or the year before at Furnace Fest, I was like, damn, this is cool. And then they played all the straight edge songs. I'm like, this is also somewhat cool, but I'm not like, it's not really, I'm not that I'm not vibing with it, but it's like everyone else who's like straight edge is vibing that much harder with it. You know what I mean?
Dude, they have those. Throwdown especially has like those anthems that are like, raise your fist in the air, bro. Like, dude, they have like, they're sick, man. That's kind of how my old band before Contention kind of was. It was a lot more like straight edge is literally a lyric in a song type beat. And Contention, I feel like, is the more artsy straight edge version of that, where we don't say straight edge, but like Cosmo said, it's a lot of just underlaying in the lyrics per se. And honestly, I think it works for Contention as like, I don't know, it varies from band to band. Some bands, I feel like they're a lot more upfront with it and it works for them. Us, we're upfront with it, but we're also like, you know, it's not 100% in your face like some other bands, and I feel like that just works better for us at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I have a shirt. Sorry, excuse me. I have a shirt that I'm wearing, and I took a picture next to my dad at my band's first show. Now, my dad grew up in the 70s, and he was a pothead, like big pothead, which is part of the reason why I didn't want to like smoke pot either. I was like, oh, you know, because you butt heads with your dad when you're growing up. You're like, I'm never going to be anything like him. Fuck him. Turns out I drink beer and smoke weed the same like my dad, so you don't, it's the same thing. But at the time, I was like straight edge, and I remember that it's a funny ass shirt because my dad's growing pot in the backyard, and I have a shirt that says like "Kill your local drug dealer" on it. You know what I mean? So it's just it's a funny dichotomy. Yeah.
That's sick.
And I think the back was like "Bite the curb, motherfucker" or something like that. And it was like getting curb stomped.
I can picture the shirt in the semi-automatic MP5 on the front or SK on the front.
It had a gun. It had a gun, yeah. And I don't know if it was a full gun or if it was just the body of a gun, but yeah. Then the back was like "Bite the curb, motherfucker" or something like that. And I'm like,
the classic design.
Yeah. I look back on the shirt and I'm like, I look back at that picture. I'm like, I was wild, dude, for that one. But
yeah, some of the shirts my parents put up with, I don't know why the fuck they didn't beat my ass.
Yeah, right. The T-shirt hell was a thing when I was a kid, and that was a website that you could basically go and buy like fucking dumb T-shirts that were sort of offensive and whatnot. And I brought, again, to show like the differences in my parents. My mom, I brought like a Britney Spears as a horror T-shirt, and it was like just a simple like it was like cheesy pop vibes shirt, and then I wore it a couple times, and I got out of the wash or dryer or something like that, and there was like a hole in the part that said "whore," and I was like, "What the fuck going on with my shirt?"
Fucking rip that shit out.
And Mom cut it, and I was like, "That one's bad, but this one, okay." I was like, "I don't understand."
I had that Harm's Way upside down crosses down the fucking long sleeve shirt when I was 15, and I spent the night at my friend Crazy Dave's house. Pretty sure his mom threw it in the fucking trash. I never found it again.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm currently 40, and if I go to my girlfriend's or her parents' house, grandparents' house, I can't wear any kind of metal shirt at all. Anything that has anything remotely, satanic or like anti whatever, it's like, no, you can't wear that shirt. I'm like, dude, all my shirts are fucking long sleeve death metal shirts. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, we've made it through most of this podcast without me talking about it, and I'm going to bring it up now. Is Cosmo your real name?
No comment, man. I don't.
It's one of these gimmicks.
My name is too like one-off that I don't want people to know it because it impacts my work and shit. So I don't put my government name out there as much as possible. I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but legit, there's no other Vidusi family on the planet. Like in America, they're in Italy. Like relatives of ours are in Italy, but we're the only Vidusis here. So since I was a kid, if I put some fucked up shit on the internet, I'm getting a call from somebody in my family immediately. So I'm like, whatever. So I'm just careful about the shit that's out there. I mean, I don't really care for my sake. It's only so I don't impact my family and shit. But so no, it's not my government. But yeah.
So it's more of like you can do these things in peace without your family knowing what's going on, or
that and my job and shit like that.
Gotcha.
And whatever else legal stuff. So that's I've had that name a long time. So that's what I go by.
Not with not. You don't have to point out what you do or anything like that, but what would be some things that a job would not like about contention?
I mean, it's really not that bad. I always think to myself, like, dude, how do these bands, like porno grind bands,
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck did they have a normal life? Even Cannibal Corpse before they were making money. Like, dude, how do you explain
they probably
that
did.
shit?
They probably don't.
Yeah, just how do you explain? Like, I don't bring the band shit up to anybody. They know that I'm like, oh, I'm going on tour, I'm going on a vacation, whatever. They might know something like that, but people ask me, and I say, I'm not fucking telling you. You're not knowing anything about this shit. And it's not because I'm embarrassed of it. It's just,
You're trying to keep worlds separate.
I work in medical shit, so, I just don't. And my name's so fucking unique, I guess. So I just really don't like. I don't know. I'm a private person. So I would do it full time if I could, but I'm like a farmer. I'm a tree farmer. So if I could do that full time, I wouldn't give a fuck. Yeah, Josh was also a tree farmer at one point. At one point, we were a band of farmers.
What the fuck is that all about?
It's South Florida, man.
I understand, but like, what you now with 5 minutes left in this whole fucking thing, you bring up like some weird side tangent that
you
now
I'm your Nardwuar fucking research, man. And then he would.
My parents have been in the tree business for a long time, and his parents. Too. It's literally just coincidence that our families just happen to be in the tree business. But yeah, I don't know. That's real Florida shit, I guess. Is you have a tree farm.
If I could open this window behind me, I live in a trailer on a tree farm. This is an RV that I'm in.
Nice.
This is all fucking trees behind me.
What kind of trees are you farming? When you're farming trees, you're growing them, right? You're not just cutting them down.
It's a nursery. It's a nursery. Okay. Technically, I say farm. If we don't need the fucking agricultural statistic, specific.
So when
whatever.
when you grow a tree and you get it in that little brown sack thing and you transport, do you just cut it out of the ground?
Yeah, you do a root ball. You take a machine shovel, you cut a circle around it, you put a strap on it, a pneumatic, bobcat attachment pulls it out of the ground, you make some money.
And then what? The roots that are in the ground already just fucking die out?
They die off. It's actually good. It fixes nitrogen in the soil. If we're gonna get into fucking botany talk, man, we're gonna need another hour here. So I grow orchids is a big part of what I do. So I have an orchid greenhouse. So.
Yeah. Well, what a way to end this whole thing off, huh? With you have even more questions than you had when you started the podcast. That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll do another one when we drop the 4th LP.
Yeah,
make our first billion. And we'll come back on and talk to you.
Well, maybe if you're not on MTV, whatever TRL is going on at that time, hopefully you have time for us little small guys then. But yeah, it was a good one, man, and. I don't know when. I'm trying to think of if you guys are coming through town. I know we saw you at FYA in February. And like I said, shows here have just been kind of like dying out.
Do we have anything? You're in Jax, right?
Yeah.
We are playing Jacksonville.
Are you playing with Domain and everybody?
Maybe.
I
don't know.
I know we're playing there.
Jax. We agreed to something.
We're playing there in September. I can't say anything about it yet, but we are playing Jacksonville in September.
Cool. You'll see us on some other shows around. We're doing some cool Florida shit.
Cool.
Yeah, we have our record release show in Tampa, July 20th. So,
how did that work out?
Roll out.
How did it work out being released 2 months prior and then doing the show 2 months after?
That's always how it goes.
Yeah.
You got to get the records in hand, but yeah. Josh is putting on the show. If you want to plug your shit, Josh.
Yeah, where are you at? What venue is it at?
It's at the skate park in Tampa, July 20th. It'll be sick. There, not just Contention. There is a shitload of awesome Tampa bands playing. So roll out. Yeah, it's gonna be sick. But I don't know. It's a long story, but anyway, the tour came up before the record release show was really even talked about. So they're like, oh, we'll just do the tour, whatever. And I just had a son, so I wasn't really able to go on the tour. So they went and did the tour for like a week. And now it's like, okay, we're back. We're settled. We have the records in hand. Let's do a record release show kind of thing. It worked out like that.
Well, congratulations on being a dad. I don't know if that's your first time being a dad, but congratulations.
It is. Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you so much.
All right, boys. Well, wait, do you guys skateboard at all?
I used to.
Not anymore.
No?
Not anymore.
Tampa skater, yeah.
I know skating is big in Tampa because the Pro-Am and everything like that and skate park of Tampa. But also, I'm a diehard Rays fan, and they did the City Connect uniforms, and it's got a skating Ray on it, dog. You know?
That's awesome.
Our bodies are too old and broken.
So is mine. Yeah. I was trying to learn how to pop shove it again like fucking 3 years ago, and I gave up because I was like, I'm going to break something and gravy's going to pour out or something. All right, boys. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Yeah. By all means. Artillery from Heaven on Days Records out now. You can go see Contention whenever, wherever, as long as they're not growing trees or working in the medical field or doing other day jobs. Yep. Days. What's the shirt? I've been looking at the shirt, Josh, and I can't figure out.
It's my record label.
Okay. Did you say the name of the record label?
I had to plug it.
What's the name of it? How did that cut out right when he said that?
It just cut out. It's censored. It's the Illuminati, dude.
Armageddon Records.
Armageddon Records, yeah. All right. Well, hopefully this stays up and the Illuminati doesn't take it down and the hardcore mafia doesn't hate everything that we've said on it, but
God willing.
It'll happen. All
Inshallah.
Right. Thanks, boys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Later.